Hello there guys, it's me Boardman. You probably might recognise me from previous videos, so I am so glad you came here to join me on this brand new video. I'm going to do another read out for you guys as we learn and listen together for story time with me. So, it seems like you came to my attention when I do storybooks with you guys when we listen. First of all, I'll go show a book I've got. I'll go read to you. I've got Michael Bond, Paddington in the Garden, illustrated by R.W Alley. You definitely might recognise Paddington books. I think Paddington's quite such a cute and amazing character. This is a perfect story for children during their bedtime. So, what I tend to do, I'll go to read this book by words each page and also show some those amazing, significant illustrated pictures from each page. Sit back, relax and enjoy. One morning, Paddington went out into the garden and began making a list of all the nice things he could think of about being a bear and living with the Browns. He had room of his own and a warm bed to sleep in, and he had marmalade for breakfast every morning. In darkest Peru, he had only been allowed it on Sundays. For this he was soon so long he had nearly run out of paper before he realised he had left out one of the nicest things of all. The garden itself. Apart from occasional noise from a nearby building site, it was quite quiet and peaceful. It didn't seem like being in London at all. But nice gardens don't just happen. They usually require a lot of hard work. And the one at number 32, Windsor Gardens, was no exceptions. Mr. Brown had to mow the lawn twice a week, and Mrs. Brown was kept busy reading the flower beds. There was always something to do. If Mrs. Bird lent a hand whenever she had a spare moment. It was Mrs. Bird who first suggested giving Jonathan, Judy and Paddington each a piece of a garden. It would take certain bears out of mischief, she said meaningly, and it will be fun for Jonathan and Judy as well. Mr. Brown agreed it was a very good idea, and he marked out 3 plots at the far end of the lawn. Paddington was almost most excited. I don't suppose there are many bears who have their own garden, he exclaimed. Early the next morning, all 3 set to work. Judy decided to make a flower bed, and Jonathan had his eye on some old paving stones. Paddington did not know what to do. In the past, he had often found that gardening was much harder than he looked, especially when you only had paws. In the end, armed with a jar of Mrs. Bird's homemade marmalade, he borrowed Mr. Brown's wheelbarrow and set off to look for ideas. His first stop was a stall in the market, when he bought a book called How to Plan Your Garden by Aloud. It came complete with a large packet of assorted seeds, and if a picture on the front cover was anything to go by, it was no wonder. Mr. looked happy for seemed to do most of his planning, while lying in the hammock by the end of his book. Without lifting a finger, he was surrounded by blooms. Paddington, it was very good value indeed, especially when the owner of the stall gave him 2 pence changed. Mr. Trug's book was full of useful hints and tips. The first one suggested that before starting work it was a good idea to close your eyes and try to picture what the garden would look like when it was finished. Having walked into the lamppost by mistake, Paddington decided to read another page or two, and there he found a much better idea. Mr. Trug advised standing back and looking at the sight from a safe distance, preferably somewhere high up. He knew just a spot. By the time Paddington reached the building site near the Brown's house, it was the middle of the morning, and the men were all at their tea break. Placing his jar of marmalade on a wooden platform for safekeeping, he sat on a pile of bricks for the rest. While he considered the matter, there was no one about, and there was a ladder nearby. Mr. Trug was quite right. The Brown's garden did look very different from high up, but before he had time to get his breath back, Paddington heard the sound of the engine starting up. He peered through the gap in the boards. As he did so, his eyes nearly popped out. On the ground, just below him, a man was emptying a load of concrete on the very spot where he had left his jar of marmalade. Paddington scrambled back down the ladder as fast as his legs would carry him, reaching the bottom just as the foreman came around a corner. "Is something wrong?" asked the man. "You look upset." "My jar has been buried," exclaimed Paddington hotly, pointing to the pile of concrete. He had some Mrs. Bird's best golden chunks in it too. "I won't ask how your jar got there," said the foreman, turning to Paddington as his men set to work clearing the concrete into the small pile. "Or what you are doing up the ladder." I'm glad of that," said Paddington, politely raising his hat. Suddenly, there was a whirling sound from somewhere overhead, and to Paddington's surprise, the platform landed on his feet. "My marmalade!" he exclaimed thankfully. "Your marmalade?" repeated the foreman, staring at the jar. "Did you say marmalade?" "That's right," said Paddington. "I put it there ready for my Levenses. It must have been taken up by mistake. Now the tops came off." It was the foreman's turn to look as he thought he could hardly believe his eyes. "That's a special quick drying cement," he rolled. "It's probably rock hard already, ruined by the bear's marmalade. No one will give me 2 pence for it now." "I will," said Paddington eagerly. I've had an idea." Paddington was busy for the rest of the week. When the builders saw the rock garden he had made, they were most impressed, and the foreman even gave him some plants to finish off. until his seeds started to grow. It's National Garden Day on Saturday, he said. There are some very famous people judging it. I'll spend a word around. You never know your luck. The foreman was as good as his word, and on Saturday, half the neighbourhood turned up at number 32 Windsor Gardens to see the judges arrived. Paddington nearly fell over backwards with surprise when he discovered that no less a person than Mr. Lionel Trugg himself was leading the procession. It's very good of you to get out of your hammock, Mr. Trugg, he explained. Not at all, said Lionel Trugg. My pleasure, I must say. I love your orange stones. Where did you find them? I didn't, said Paddington. I think they found me, thanks to the builders. Congratulations, said Mr. Trugg, as he handed Paddington a gold star. It's good to see a young bear taking up gardening. I hope you will be the first of many. Who would have believed, said Mr. Brown, as the last of the crowd depart. You must write and tell Aunt Lucy all about it, said Mrs. Bird. They'll be very excited in the home for retired bears when they hear the news. Paddington thought that was a good idea, but he had something to do first. He wanted to add one more important item to his list of all the nice things there were about being a bear and living with the Browns, having my own rock garden. Then he signed his name and added his special paw print, just to show it was a genuine. This is the end of the story of Paddington in the Garden. So, I hope you guys found the story about Paddington working in the garden with the Brown family. Well, I'm glad you found that story very interesting. It seems quite very entertaining. Just want to conclude this video. I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy this video. Remember, please write your comments down below if you want to see the next Read Aloud videos. So if you want to make suggestions, just let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll see you soon.